aim to motivate and inspire viewers to enjoy the clothes they wear as an expression of their personality and their beliefs. This is the Slow Wardrobe. Come and have a look. Hello, welcome to episode 80 of the Slow Wardrobe podcast. My name is Linda and I'm your host. In this episode, I will give you, as per usual, an update on my knitting and crochet antics. Although I haven't made much way forward in my crochet, but I'm doing other stuff to do with linen yarn that will at some point involve crochet again. So as usual, I'm racing ahead. So knitting and a bit of crochet antics and future plans, and followed by a layer cake section where I will try to inspire you a bit more around the newly introduced layer cake cocoons, the Jersey knitted fabric, organic cotton with a bit of elastane in a long sleeve version and matching baggies. But first, a knitting update. Yes, so you will notice here that I've got a shawl draped in a slightly peculiar way. That's a shawl that I finished a while ago and reported on in detail. So look back to previous episodes if you want me to fill you in on that. At the moment, I've got it sitting there because it is covering my progress on the Westknits Mystery Knit Along. I am hopefully about 3/4 way through Clue 2, which was issued 2 weeks ago already. Most people are, or a lot of people are already way into Clue number 3, and I think today Clue number 4 is being issued, but I'm still on Clue 2. It was in no small part because I had a long weekend away visiting my family in Holland last weekend, so not much knitting was done and I made some mistakes that I will talk you through, all corrected again by now, but still. So I've covered it here in case you don't want any spoilers and you don't want to see the progress on the mystery knit along. If you want to knit it as a mystery and you don't want to see it, then I completely understand. So I will put down here at the bottom of the screen how far you want to scroll ahead to miss the next section. But for all of you who are happy to see what I'm doing, I'm going to reveal it now and show you what I'm up to. Here we go. So taking my beautiful cashmere and linen shawl off. This is where I am with the mystery knit along. So you can't see that much at the moment, but that's because I've hung it on this mannequin to give you an idea of where we are at. I'll turn her around to show you the start of it. Clue number 1 was this fan-shaped section of chevrons, and in between the chevrons were little knitted sections, a couple of rows. I cast on some stitches, couple of rows, cast them off again. So they were these ladders which you then end up pulling up as if they were a dropped stitch. So they are chevrons with big stitches in between, which of course are a chevron shape as well. I think this is pure genius. Never seen anything like it. Wonderful effect, great fun to knit, and a real surprise when you pull up those chevrons and you end up with a giant stitch in the middle actually. So I think real genius. Then clue number 2, which I haven't knitted yet, I haven't finished yet, starts with 2 fan-shaped sections. Actually, I'll show you the first section here because that hasn't got anything else showing yet. So that has this fan-shaped, let me lift it up. Sorry, you can see that I don't rehearse this stuff. This is the fan shape that is knitted with these like sun ray shaped lines in the third color. As you can see, my main color and my contrast color. My main color is the purple. Contrast color is undyed linen, which has got this beautiful pearly kind of glow to it. And then because I didn't want to come in with anything strong as my accent color, I've gone with a dark gray. Somehow that dark gray is part of that kind of family of neutrals, and therefore, in my opinion, ties in quite nicely with the undyed. It's still a nice accent color, but it doesn't scream, look at me, because I wanted these other two colors to continue to play the main role. So it's got this fan-shaped section in garter stitch and like a twisted rib in the accent color. And once those are finished, you then end up adding a section of cables in your contrast color. So in my case, the undyed linen. So that section is going to progress all the way up to that. I think it's all going to go all the way up to that first giant stitch. So it fills in that section, and it does that on both sides. And as you can see, I'm only about, well, not even halfway through the first one yet. And I have one to do on the other side as well. So that's where I'm at, and that's as much as I have done. I can hold it up as well now, because of course I'm going to hide it in a minute for those who are coming back to join us at the end of this section. There we are. This is holding it up. You can see that it just about forms a half circle at this time. And there's the cabled section coming along in my right hand, left on your screen, and then another cabled section will follow at the other end. So all I've done to flatten and straighten my stitches is steam block it on with this lots of steam on the iron here at the studio, and ironing board rather, and that is a wonderful way of blocking linen. And I'm knitting this actually on quite a tiny needle. It's a 2.5 millimeter needle, because of course my linen is a 3-ply, 600 meters per 100 grams. So everything shrinks down, and knitted loosely, because I'm quite a loose knitter, on a 2.5 millimeter needle gives me this wonderful fabric. I really like that it's still quite lofty and airy, but it's not so loose that you lose the stitch definition altogether. And especially in the cables, I love the stitch definition of the cables. I hadn't actually tried to do cables yet in linen, and I'm thrilled with the effect. Now, I also have noticed that because I've been knitting with linen for quite a while by now, my muscle memory around giving enough yarn to my stitches so that the knitting is loose enough to make up for the fact that linen does not stretch at all is completely unconscious by now. So I don't have to think about that. I don't have to ensure that I knit loose enough. It goes automatically. And that is a key thing to know and have and be able to do when you're knitting linen. I recently explained to somebody who asked me, well, is there anything particular about knitting linen? And it's like, yeah, it doesn't stretch. And that puts both the responsibility to build in extra space in your stitches so that they don't get tight, but it also puts all the control, so both the responsibility and the control in your hands. It gives you total control, and total responsibility. The yarn isn't going to do any stretching for you. It's all you who has to put in that extra space. And I guess I'm enough of a control freak to enjoy that and to like that, and to really, how do I say it, feel a sense of accomplishment, that I don't have to relinquish any of the responsibility to make it look good to the yarn. It's my responsibility to do that, and I like the idea of picking that up and running with it. I hope that any of that makes sense. But coming back to the cables, I'd never tried cables in linen, and I love it. I'll put a close-up picture of the little bit of cabling that I have, because I'm not very far in it yet, on the screen here, to give you a better idea of what they look like. And hopefully in episodes to come, I'll be able to show a lot more of that. So far so good. Love the stitch definition, and enjoying the result of the knitting. If not so much the process, somehow I don't know whether it's me, but somehow these mystery knits are not very intuitive. So one of the things that happened to me is I have the pattern downloaded on my phone, and I use a PDF reader app to read the pattern. So it's quite a small screen, of course, and the different pages of the pattern, especially in Clue 2, look quite similar, but the instructions, of course, are not. And what happened to me was that shortly after I started knitting the first part of Clue 2, so the first, let me pick this up properly, the first piece like this, which I now try to remember where it was. I think it may have been on this side where you do it first. Ooh. Sorry, my needle is stuck and making my stitches bunch up. I think it was on this side where you pick up and stitches and knit along your previously made I-cord, and then you start knitting that fan. Shortly after starting that section, I had a break in my knitting for a day or so, came back to it, opened my pattern, found where I was, and thought, oh my gosh, I've made a mistake in the picking up and knitting of my I-cord stitches. I pulled it back, I re-knitted it, and I was off. I was knitting that whole section. Turned out that I had gone 1 or 2 pages ahead, and I mistook the instructions for this section to be the instructions for that section. So as a result, when I finished it, my entire section here was upside down. So instead of the rays of my accent color fanning out in the same direction as my chevrons, they were going in the opposite direction. So I had the chevrons going like this, and then I had a set of rays going the other way. Oops. I then realized, of course, what I had done wrong. So I unpicked the first row of stitches where I had picked up and knitted the edge of my I-cord. So I unpicked those stitches, because of course they're just little loops. I unpicked those stitches, put the live stitches that were at the bottom of that section on a needle, and then grafted the whole thing on the other side, which meant that, lo and behold, of course, here it is. So the bottom of this section, rather than picked up and knitted, has been grafted onto my I-cord. I'm quite happy to do grafting. I understand it properly. I can read my stitches properly. So it doesn't look any different from stitches that have been picked up. And then I was able to knit the section properly on the other side. So, of of course, that put me even back further in time. Then when it came to picking up and knitting the I-cord to start doing my cables, I realized that the pattern of picking up and making extra stitches, of course, mirrors the kind of pattern that is formed by the colors here. But the pattern itself, the instructions don't refer to that at all. So it just says pick up and knit and make, etc. And when you read those sections, then you can see that the repetition of the combination of knits and makes follows the repetition of the sections of color. And I think it would have been quite useful to see that represented or read a representation of that, so that if there's a section, for example, that is a pick up 3 and make 1, to know that that sits either above this section or right next to it. So to have a relative spread of those stitches across the knitting, but that isn't there. So I picked up everything and I thought, I'm actually 1 or 2 stitches short here. How did that happen? Because I did count properly, and by going back and doing that again 2 or 3 times in total, I eventually worked out like, this section belongs here, this section belongs there, etc. So it's not a big criticism, it's just me wanting to be really precise, especially because my stitches are so easy to read and see in my knitting. Then if those specific stitches relate to a specific cable, then it would be nice to see that cable above the contrast stripe where it's clearly intended to be. So I'm there now though, and I'm happy to proceed. But what I will do in the next sections is really read ahead and then try and relate back to the knitting that I already have, the instructions of picking up and knitting, to make sure that I don't have to do that by trial and error and take it out a couple of times before I get it right. Because it's just, not that I don't mind thinking back at all, but it just, like I said, it's not very intuitive, and the instructions are not there to fill in the gaps, if you know what I mean. So that all said, that's it for my progress so far. I will now put it away in my latest Ochil's bag from Midwinter Yarns. I love the ones that are in this wonderful waxed linen, waxed canvas I should say. It's then beautifully lined, of course, with a woodland creatures fabric that has a little fox that is just the same color as the orange on the outside. And I kept looking out for the waxed canvas either in an orange or a pink. I fancied a really bright color, and when I didn't see them come up, I thought, you know what, I will quickly send Estelle a message and say, do you happen to have any orange or pink? And she says, well, actually, I've got an orange one pre-cut. Do you fancy that? I thought, yes, please. So she made it, sent it, I think within 24 hours of the question, and therefore I can feature it in this episode. She has no idea that I'm going to do this. I just am such a fan of these little bags. They are, I'm calling it a little bag, but it's not actually that little. It's wonderful size for a growing project like a shawl, and as you can see, you can then fold it. You can fold it over more if you're working on a smaller project, and you don't have to fold it at all when you're working on a big project. You can just close it like this and have more space for your project, as you can see. I love it, and I love how the creases create this beautiful crunkled pattern on the linen, or on the canvas, I mean. So thank you very much, Estelle, for the super fast delivery, and Can't recommend them highly enough. This is not in any way sponsored. I properly paid for my bag. I just love them and therefore give them a shout out whenever I remember. So far, so good on my Westknits mystery knit along. Right, what else have I got? Well, as you know, I am working on my third little phone bag, my crocheted phone bag. I am writing the pattern and working on this as I go along, and that's why I haven't made any progress. I haven't been doing any pattern writing, so I do apologize for the fact that it's taking a long time. I'll get there when I get there. Only so many hours in a day, right? So that was all on the crochet front, at least on this project. You may or may not remember that I told you in a previous episode that the whole existence of these little crocheted bags came along when I was offered a dead stock of very fine thin linen thread that was weaving thread from an Irish mill that has long closed. And I have 2 of the cones of the linen thread sitting here on the table, and you can see that it is unbelievably thin. It's hard to even show you. It's like it really is as thin as machine sewing thread. And I have the yarn here. I didn't know what to do with it yet, but I wanted to experiment with it and try lots of different things. So this may end up becoming a set section in the podcast whenever I have an update for you. I have to have a think what to call it. It's like the linen journey or something like that, because I want to do lots of different things with this linen to eventually end up with a use for it that everybody can enjoy. And I've made a proper start. One of the things that I realized was that if it is as thin as sewing thread, then let's try and sew with it. So what I did is put it in the sewing machine. I literally wound some on an empty little cone like this and used that as my upper thread. Wound some on a bobbin, a sewing machine bobbin, to have it as a lower thread as well, and then tried to sew it on the sewing machine. And the effects are not bad. Because it is linen, it of course has a staple length, a long staple length, and but it's a staple length that is limited, and the fineness of the staples, of the fibers, of course is dictated by the quality of the linen and the quality with which it has been processed. Now, when you are looking at polyester sewing machine threads and any of the artificial fibers, plastic fibers, they can make those fibers incredibly long because they're extruded under very high pressure by a machine, and then they are spun. They can make them very thin and very long. Of course, with a fiber like linen, just like with wool, you are limited by the size of the plant, and there's a limit to how long the fibers can be. So that means that these threads are made up out of a staple that has a certain length, and you can only go down to a certain fineness. So when you then spin that, you end up with ends of your fibers that can't disappear completely. And when you then thread that through a sewing machine, and the sewing machine puts tension on that thread, and the thread, the needle, pushes up and down through the fabric, you can, of course, get fibers that get caught by those different points of friction and start rucking up. So that means that you would have to have a sewing machine set up such that the thread gets pulled enough to make a neat stitch, but doesn't get pulled so much and has that much friction that the ends get caught. I am quite positive that I should be able to set up a machine so that I can adjust all those tensions and make neat stitches without destroying the thread. So all I've done so far is, like I said, put the thread on the bobbin and on the little cone, thread them through a sewing machine without making any tension adjustments, and I tried to sew with it. And it worked. It worked. I'll show you a close-up of this little fabric as well, to my right, your left. But I did this partially on the sewing machine. The normal looking stitches are done by the sewing machine, and then there is a little section of what looks like a chain stitch, slightly heavier, that I did with a double thread by hand. And I did this with the little flower in the middle with a double thread as well, just to see what hand sewing would look like and feel like. The hand sewing is divine. It is really easy and lovely to do. So as a hand sewing thread, 100% linen hand sewing thread, it's wonderful. I already know that my friend Helen did some weaving with this thread, and it is very, very fine for hand weaving, as you can appreciate. But what I'm going to ask her to do is, can she weave holding a couple of threads together? Is that doable to make it slightly heavier? I'm interested in that. I'm also going to spin this, so have a couple of these together and spin it to a slightly heavier yarn and see what happens in terms of its strength, whether it ends up over twisting, because of course this does not hold any residual twist in it. It's quite relaxed as it is, so I run the risk of over twisting or untwisting it. I don't know yet. I want to try and spin it with some wool as well, some wool fiber, to see what happens there. So there's a spinning avenue, there's a bit more of weaving to do. I've just started sewing with it, and of course I want to try and dye it, because imagine turning this into a collection of hand-dyed linen thread that can be used for hand stitching. I get very excited at that idea. I also tried to knit it. Where are my little knitting samples? I had them. Where have they gone? Bear with, I'll find them. I managed to pick it up with my knitting and put it back in my project bag. Dear oh dear. You'd think that picking up a couple of very long pins like this you would notice, but no, I hadn't. So on this tiny little piece of fabric, again I'll put a close-up to your left of the screen, are stuck with pins two tiny little knitting samples. One knitted with a single thread of the undyed linen, and one with a double thread, one undyed and one white, on a 1mm thick knitting needle. So tiny little knitting swatches. And the idea behind this is that these precious little samples, these precious little scraps that actually hold some time and attention in them would be lovely to show off on linen fabric. And that's given me another idea as part of this project moving forward. I have been enthralled by the idea of slow stitching, daily slow stitching that is promoted and really brought to my attention regularly by some wonderful slow stitchers. I actually attended a slow stitching workshop a number of years ago and I love it. I will show you some example and give you some names down here of slow stitchers for you to look into and follow if you're interested. However, that idea of slow stitching that's been with me for so long, I wanted to pursue when I started to make clothes in linen, because linen is such a wonderful medium to stitch on. It's got clear threads, it's wonderful to hold, etc. And of course, the idea of visible mending and embellishment of clothes, personalization of clothes, is becoming more and more popular. Not only that, but a large part of my customer base are stitchers, either in the form of knitting or in the form of sewing, by machine or by hand. So when you are wearing the most wonderful backdrop for your slow stitching, then why wouldn't you slow stitch on the clothes that you are wearing? And that's why I want to move with these threads, dyed or undyed. But imagine having little groups of little motifs and just doodles, or little sections of tiny little knitted patches attached to a garment like this, either along the edges or all over the top, one shoulder, symmetrical, asymmetrical, doesn't matter. The idea of taking a little bit of time, just 10 or 15 minutes a day, where you sit down, and if your form of meditation, as it is mine, is to concentrate on some knitting or some stitching, then you would have the dress that you are wearing and grab literally the edge of it and put some stitches on it for that day. That is your contribution to that garment for that day. And you could explode that all over your wardrobe, or not. You could just keep it with one garment and just have that garment as something that you stitch on regularly. But why not give each and every garment you own a signature by taking the time on a particular day that you happen to be wearing that and say, you know what, today I'm going to personalize this dress, and the way I'm going to do it is to put one little patch, one little personalized tattoo that says, this is Linda's dress, on this sleeve. And it only says, this is Linda's dress, to me, not to the rest of the world. It's just a tiny little embellishment. Or I could put some blanket stitches on the edge, or I could take a little knitted swatch and attach that. However, it could be the same color, it could be a contrast. There are lots of opportunities there as well. So that's one of the avenues that I want to move into with this wonderful inherited thread and give it a really wonderful future. My friend Helen, who had already woven some of this thread, is also the most wonderful dyer. So I'm going to ask her help and see if we can wind some of this into little hanks and then dye them and see what comes out. See how the linen behaves and then maybe find a place that could wind it onto cards or onto bobbins, or maybe sell it as neat little hanks or skeins. I don't know yet, but what I will do is promise you to have the linen journey, as I will call it, as a set section of the podcast. I'll probably put it in between my knitting update and layer cake. We'll have the linen journey in between, and every time I have something to show you, that gives me one little step forward in my journey towards making this a reality, that I can share these yarns with you in the shape of projects for you to jump on. I will do so. So that's it for this time in this episode, my linen journey in knitting, crochet, and now also sewing, possibly weaving, possibly spinning, definitely some dyeing will continue. But for now, let's dive into layer cake. Enjoy. So here we are. I'm starting off this little gallery of Jersey inspiration, outfit inspirations, and color combinations, playing on what I started at the last episode with an outfit that I put together to show on Instagram. And sometimes when I style these outfits for Instagram, I just make this kind of happy discovery. I already said to you that the color, the gray color of the Anytime top is a wonderful gray because it is a grayish almost. So it's a relatively warm gray. It's still clearly a gray, but if you wear warmer colors, then you'll find that this color works really well. And I've got a couple of outfits lined up to illustrate that. So what I put together and what I was so thrilled with is one of the Anytime tops in the grey together with the magenta baggies. These are my own baggies, which is why they look a little bit crumpled. I've been wearing them for a couple of days already. And I'm combining that with one of the sparkle tops. Now the sparkle top is a love top, as you can see from the shaping. So you can see that the Anytime top peeps out at the front because it's got a different hemline. It's got a lower hemline in the front, so it properly covers all tummies. And the love top is, the sparkle love top is a weave that is made using undyed linen and silver stellina. So as a result, it washes and wears extremely well. It doesn't fade over time. It doesn't dull over time. But you can see that that natural linen color goes extremely well with this soft gray. And then combined with the really bright pink, I really loved the combination. And I wanted to show it to you here rather than just on Instagram. Now I'm wearing it with one of the samples that I have of the Candleford. Candleford, if you remember, is the collaboration that I did with Beverly from Boo Knits, who designed this gorgeous shawl specifically with layer cake in mind. And this is the all lace version without beads. There are two versions. One is all lace and the other one has a stocking stitch panel in the middle and then a lace border. And both versions can be made with or without beads. All the instructions are in the pattern. I'm going to show you the other one later on with one of the other outfits. But this is the all lace version, all knitted in pink linen. And 100 grams of the pink linen yarn is enough for one of these shawls, which of course is wonderful. It makes it very cost effective. And as you know, linen is a really nice alternative for shawls to wool. If you find that you overheat a little bit too much with wool, then you'll find that with linen, especially if you wind it around your neck a couple of times, which you can easily do with this shawl design because it's plenty big for it, then you'll be able to stay warm. The linen, despite not being wool, still traps a lot of air in between those nice open stitches. So you can go for a look like this and stay warm without overheating too much. So, moving on from this gray color, I will show you the big impact it makes by just changing, keeping the entire outfit the same, but just changing the color of the underpinning, the color of the shirt beneath. So I'm going to grab one of the white ones, which I haven't shown to you at all yet. Here we go. The white instead of the gray, and look what a difference it makes. It really pops that white rather than the gray being very muted and letting the sparkle top shine a bit more. This really changes the look and the feel of the outfit. I have kept the shawl exactly the same. All that's changed is the underpinning. And of course, I can keep showing you other colors to see what an impact that make. For example, if I change these baggies for a more neutral color, because of course this is very bright, and then I keep this rest of the outfit the same, then you'll see that the whole outfit becomes more classic. So I will put one of the jersey baggies on in black, and I'll go for the regular length, so they will be cropped on me. And you can see that cropped baggies are a really nice way of wearing an alternative to a more traditional skirt. Let's go. Black jersey baggies in the regular length. What do we think? Oh, by the way, this love top is a size 2. So slightly oversized on me, giving a bit more of that boxy kind of feel to the top. And the white anytime top that I'm wearing underneath it is a size 2 as well. The gray I had on was a size 0, so that was much more fitted underneath my love top, but this is all nice and loose and roomy. So it still has that bright pink that really jazzes up the whole outfit, but if you like to keep it much more muted, then just taking the shawl off makes a huge difference to the rest of the outfit. If I get rid of the shawl like this, then wear it like this, lovely, relaxed, super comfy outfit that is worthy of going to a nice dinner party or any kind of festivities that we may have in our future. And you can see, because it's such a beautiful dark matte black, that it really works quite well as part of what can be perceived as a slightly more formal outfit. So if we can keep changing, then I could swap this white anytime top for a black one, but then keep the silver sparkle top. So we'll have jersey below and on top like we have now, and then the linen sparkle top over the top of that. Let's have a look at that. Different look and feel just by changing the color of the underpinning. And of course, I could go back to the gray to soften it again and go back towards that look that I had at the beginning. So just an idea of inspiring you to play with the different colors of the underpinning to create a different feel of the overall outfit. I'll show you this same outfit, this black base layer, for want of a better word, of the baggies, and imagine wearing some heels with that, for example, or some booties with that same cropped look would work a treat. And I'm always brandishing them as cocoons because they are so comfy to wear at home. But of course, there's absolutely no reason not to wear them out. They don't look like ratty old jogging trousers. They really are your proper baggies. They're made out of really good quality stretchy material. They'll wash and wash. It'll keep their color. They'll keep their shape thanks to the 5% elastane that's in there. So they can equally be dressed up as well as down. or work underneath a different outfit. So staying with the festive feel, how about adding a festive duster to this and having a look at how that is combined with the rest of this outfit? I'll grab one now. So I thought I'd grab one of the light colored ones because it goes so well, as you can see, with the festive sparkle top. The combination is wonderful because, of course, both of these fabrics have undyed linen as one of the colors in there, so they combine beautifully together. Of course, you can drop any of this outfit, really, any of the tops, because of course I'm wearing 3 layers. So if you end up finding that too warm, you can either leave out the sparkle top or the long sleeve black underpinning and create a different look and feel. Of course, with the black underpinning, when you're wearing an anytime top, then you'll see the edges of it sticking out above the neckline of your love tops, because the anytime top has a slightly higher neckline. We thought for winter that would be a good idea together with the long sleeves. But if you want the underpinning without it showing, then choose the stretchy love top as instead, which of course we also have in the black. Let me grab the other festive duster as well, the darker one, so you can see how that looks with this outfit. And here it is. And although the colors in the darker Mercury festive duster do not have undyed linen in them, the undyed linen mixed with the silver sparkle in the sparkle top makes it go grayer than just purely undyed, and as a result it goes really well with that very light silvery gray that's in the Mercury top. So lovely festive outfit created with really some very simple jersey underpinnings, a sparkle top and this duster. I'll take the sparkle top out in between as well, so you can see what it's like to just wear the stretchy top and bottoms with the duster over the top. And here it is. Simple, very effective. Add a piece of jewelry or a shawl, anything that you want to embellish it with further, or wear it very plain just as it is, and you're ready to go. Now I will show the same outfit with a long duster as well, just to show you the different silhouette, because of course that can be equally effective. This is the magpie stripe long duster. Remember, we had a promotion with these in the summer, the 3 different stripes for the duster, and this is the magpie. All 3 are still available. We may have 1 or 2 in stock like this one, or we'll make one for you with still plenty of time to order before Christmas. It won't be until like the middle of November that we have to call a deadline for made to order garments to get to you in time for Christmas. But I will announce that when we're closer to the date. At the moment we're still fine. Andrea is finishing the pre-order of all the spice dresses and baggies, and we're lining up some exciting garments, woolly garments for winter in the next pre-order round. And with woolly garments in mind, the jersey pieces, both the long sleeve tops as well as the baggies, form a really good base layer for your wool. If you have any sensitivity towards wool, then wearing one of these base layers underneath, of course, is ideal. One example here next to me, one of the mannequins is wearing my Howling of Wolves. I'm always calling it Dances with Wolves. A Howling of Wolves jumper with one of the anytime tops underneath. So if you have that sensitivity to wool, then this is definitely thick and dense, densely knitted enough to keep all the prickles of the wool at bay. I'll show you later on one of these outfits worn together with a wool playsuit, for example. Great as a base layer under your wool playsuit. But I digress. I'm going to go a little bit more colorful again, stick with the black base layers for now, but pair it with one of the more colorful love dresses. Here is a chartreuse love dress in a size 1 petite, worn over my black base layer. And I could of course used any of the spice colors which you've seen me a lot in lately as I was promoting the pre-order. So I thought I'll grab a slightly different color, but the spice colors of course go extremely well as well with the jersey base layers. And I've chosen this nice bright color as a backdrop for the other version that I wanted to show you of the Candleford shawl. Here it is, holding it against that light color to show you specifically the effect of the section of a stocking stitch that it starts with, and then the lace border. Same lace design as in the all over lace, but of course specifically just with the border. The other thing that's different is that the border, the lace border, has beads knitted into it, and as I said, of course it gives weight and a lovely festive feel, and the instructions are included in the pattern for that. So you of course get a slightly bigger shawl as well. There's not that much in it, but I have the feeling, I should check actually on the pattern, I have the feeling that this one is slightly bigger. And here you can see it, a great combination with any layer cakes, either worn singly or draped twice around. For those of you who don't know the trick that I was showing you of one of the ways to tie a shawl that you wear twice around your neck is to grab that first edge that you have underneath, hold it, and then peep it up through the hole here and string the other side through it. So it's almost like you're using that first and this one as a buckle. It really holds the whole thing in place. Now of course you can then spread your lace a little bit more if you want to show that more, or wear the whole thing closer to your neck, however you prefer it. But this will really keep the whole thing in place. It won't slide or rock around. It'll really stay and it shows off the beads specifically. I hope you can see them a little bit on the video. Of course you can wear it all much more closely if you don't like the idea of the doily effect that you get with the lace spread out. I love showing off the lace, but if you don't, then wear it like this. It's still a lacy shawl, as you can see. So moving on, if these really bright colors are really not your bag, then let's calm it down a little bit, but let's move in a different direction of a top that you can wear with an outfit like this. Here is one of the lovely linen shirts in a size 2. So it's nice and roomy, and it starts having a bit of a different feel when it's nice and swingy and roomy, rather than more of a fitted shirt. It has more of a tunicky feel about it. Of course, it's got the longer back and a slightly shorter front. And I've draped here the shawl exactly the same way I had it before, spread out a bit over my shoulders. And then again, you can see with a lighter color like this worn underneath, and then playing with the collar and pulling that over the top, what an effective and fun look you can make. Especially then with the cropped trousers, it's a really nice and playful outfit. And again, if you don't like the lace spread out that much, of course you can tuck it all in more, or you can wear the whole thing inside the collar rather than around the outside. But part of the size of the collar is to be able to play with shawls like this, which allows you to wear a shawl more than once around your neck without wearing it too close against your neck and making you, again, really warm. As you can see, there's a bit of space between the linen in my neck and the shawl is worn on the outside of it. That means that my neck can still breathe a little bit and it doesn't all get too close and too warm. But of course, the choice is yours. And then cuffs up or down, both are effective. Now, this is worn with black, so you get that high contrast again. If you say, well, that's all fine, but I really like less contrast. I like it all a little bit softer. Of course, we can go there because we haven't even looked yet at the other jersey colors, and one of them is the slate, the dark gray. So let me change these baggies and show you how different that look becomes when we soften the color of the base layer. Softer colors, that lovely muted light grayish gray underneath my undyed linen shirt, the Anytime top in the medium gray linen, as you can see here peeping out as well, worn with slate baggies in the longer length here. Lovely and soft. And then to finish off with, I may have told you or tried to give you that idea with the love top jerseys when we introduced those earlier on in the year. Let me show you again though, because if you oversize one of the jersey tops, it doesn't just turn into a lovely top, nice and roomy to lounge in at home, but you could wear it over the top of things as well. I'll show you again. And here it is. Lovely, relaxed, casual outfit for winter time. 3 layers at the top and then the baggies at the bottom. Of course, you can layer your baggies as well when it gets cold. They're lovely, worn on top of each other. Whether they're linen or linen and jersey or jersey and linen, however you like to combine them, give it a go. It wears beautifully. But at this point, this is just one pair of the slate baggies. Then I have the Anytime top in the medium gray. I have the shirt in the natural undyed, and then I have an oversized, this is a size 3 even, love top in the slate jersey, bringing that darker gray back again at the top of the outfit. So one outfit left. I promised you a wool play suit. I'm going to put it on now and show you that worn over the top of the jersey base layers. So one of the wool play suits worn over the top of my slate baggies and my grey Anytime top. So you can see how the necklines compare. This is a size 3 play suit. I only had size 0s, which I cannot get into for the life of me, of course, and the size 3. And you can see that the regular length on the size 3 is almost full length on me. That is because as you fill out a garment more, it looks as if it gets shorter. So for the larger ladies, keep in mind, you may not wear extra long trousers when you wear your normal trousers, but when you consider the baggies, especially the jersey ones, and you would like to wear them full length, you may want to consider the longer length rather than the regular length. If you're happy for them to be slightly cropped, then of course go for the regular length. So I'm going to zip this up so you can see the effect. And of course, because I am top to bottom in jersey. Not only does it give me an extra layer, which is lovely in winter, but it also ensures that my skin doesn't touch the wool directly anywhere. So if you have any sensitivity to either all wools or some wool, or something like this beautifully Scottish woven tweed, our large check tweed with the beautiful colors, of course we're going to make more of them again. But again, if you want one before Christmas, you can order it and you'll have it in time for sure. Then no skin contact due to the jersey, and a nice extra layer for winter. And you could just take this layer off, take your play suit off, be inside and be comfortable in your loungewear. Come time to go out, you pop your play suit over the top and you're ready to go. That of course goes for all the layer cakes, but the dresses and the play suits in particular, mind you, the smocks and the tabards would work just as effectively, are great just as an extra layer when you're wearing your jersey cocoons at home. So I'm going to leave it at this. It's all getting long enough again already, this episode. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.